I'm not like a Mickey Mouse super fan. I'm not one of those people that loves Disney World, but there's something about being there that is, I even hate to say magical, but it's special. Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 podcast. Last 2 weeks, we've had some Texo board members stroll through the studio at the Texo office. Awesome leaders in our industry on the general contracting side, and they definitely brought it with their wisdom and their story, and both of them gave each of us a slice of home in back-to-back weeks, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was just about to, I didn't know if you were going to say that. That's what I was going to say. It was like, whenever we were talking with Steve, man, you were home. It was like a slice of Chicago. And then when Damien was talking, I was just like, man, this feels like where I grew up. It wasn't the same, but just like those stories and some of all of it. So it was an interesting sort of back-to-back experiential conversation for both of us. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but like when you and Steve would get in a groove, I felt like I was learning about those places. You know what I mean? Like it's somehow it's different whenever like you're just telling me a story. I'm like, oh, you're telling me a story and I understand that story. But when y'all got to talking, I was like, oh, like I had a different, like, I'm feeling what's going on right now experience than you just like telling me something that I understood. So anyway, that was cool. The whole thing was cool. But, and that's wisdom of the topics and things we talked about, notwithstanding, was, taking it home for a minute.
Yeah, and Bruiser. So we'll start with the Bruiser one. He didn't want us to inflate him by any stretch of the imagination, so we'll do it now.
Yeah, he can't stop us now.
No, he can't. He's an awesome guy, and I wrote in the prep sheet somewhere like everything that dude says adds value, and so I got to see him on the Texo board, and every time he'd speak up from the very first retreat, first month, where most of the people are flies on the wall just trying to absorb, he got after it. And his opinion changed on things. What he would ask was cutting through holes in our game plans. Usually what he said was implemented the next month or the following months. And so like that at my chairmanship year, like he was one of my MVPs of the year, because it showed that you're not just a bunch of nodding heads in that room. Like what you say adds value, and that's why you're here. And we're able to look backwards and say, because you gave this input, we were able to do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that's how a board should operate. It's not just yes and no. It's no, you're there for a reason. Please speak up. Please, if something doesn't make sense, let us know. If we're off base, let us know. If you can add value, let us know. It's pretty cool. And it just allowed me to get to know him a lot better. And he's a freaking all-star.
Yeah. I was not on the board that year, so I'm just speaking from experience of knowing the board, knowing you and knowing Steve. But it takes someone who's presenting a scenario where people speak up and are heard and things that they're saying are being implemented to create the gravity on a board for people to do what Steve is doing, because it could have gone completely different, maybe not with his personality, but that all could be completely different if the chair of the board or the executive leadership of the board or however your board is comprised, like isn't listening anyway. Well, then people stop showing up and having opinions and voicing, and that just becomes a passive board, not a working board. But that's not how your, what would they say, chairman year? Is that what you said of the board for Texo was? That was a working year full of folks speaking up and doing stuff. And so it's a whole culture that gets created. And his personality specifically is really well suited for that, because he brings to the conversation the gravity of the things that he says. To what you were saying earlier, every time he speaks, it brings value. People are listening, we're executing, and that starts to just get a huge ball rolling,
Yeah, there's specific ones that are actually making me laugh, think in my head what he's said throughout the year. And that's another thing that's relatable for me, is the directness. Like, yeah, I'm just going to blurt this out and it's real. And I guess no sugarcoating. And it's like, well, yeah. Because at the end, he's just looking at everybody. He's like, people, it's simple economics to what he was talking about. And he was exactly right. And we're like, yeah, supply and demand. You're right. Got it. Let's do that.
Everybody's trying to like think of something off the wall or something super smart or some nuanced way to say it. And he's like, no, this is supply chain demand. Like, this is not complicated.
And what's cool about following his episode, so this past weekend in my daily devotional, 1 Corinthians 15:33 popped up, and I was able to highlight it and screenshot it and be like, hey, check it out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Bad company corrupts good character. And then got to go to his office and attend one of those Bible studies. And then after the Bible study, he took me in his office and he showed me that frame of his business card from beginning to end, which is such a cool thing to do. Like I can think about it in hindsight, but I don't have any of those business cards anymore. But it was cool to see, and having faith at the very top of it. It wasn't his title as at the top. Cool thing. I think I sent you a picture of it.
You did. I was trying to count them while we were talking, and then I started talking and forgot how many I was counting at. But it is super. It is a super, like, I don't know what the right word even is, but just monument. Is that the right word? Testament, perhaps? Maybe that's a better word. It was really cool. It was really impactful just to see it.
Yeah, and it gave me some good ideas attending one of those Bible studies, because you need a leader, and the leader, I guess the assumption pre-attending one of these is like, man, needs to be a scholar, which their dude Richard, he's a scholar, but also I was given paperwork that was a printout from part of a book, and you read a chapter, it's Esther 4, and you answer simple questions that provide dialogue, and you don't need a scholar, you just need a glue person, a glue guy or gal that'll keep the thing together. And I think oftentimes that position can be intimidating, because you think you got to have it all together, and all you need to do is follow the guide, and the guide will create the conversation. So I think that should help accelerate when we're going to do it here, because we're going to do it here. Even if it starts party at 2, so what? I'm down. Let's rip through Galatians.
Correct. I've had the privilege, I guess is the right word, of having a scholar in groups before. And there's a lot of pressure on that guy too, because he feels like he has to be the answer guy, when in reality, he's showing up just to be fed also and have dialogue with believers also. And so being that guy is difficult, but then the expectations that we're all sort of tossing on that person is tricky too. When in reality, I think, like you said it, I think I'm going to say it slightly different, is just doing what we do on the podcast, just being curious is the glue and the superpower of those groups. To say, I struggle with believing that sometimes. Let's talk about that. Or I don't know what that means. Or why is that in here? And then letting everybody dialogue around it is just very helpful. And sometimes, again, it kind of goes back to the board meeting thing. You have to have a culture where it's okay to blurt out something stupid, and somebody be like, "That's the wrong answer. Here's why that's the wrong answer," and nobody feels upset about it. Like, "Oh yeah, that was the wrong answer." Moving on, right?
Keep trying.
Yeah, keep trying. That was good. That was a good question. This was not actually good, but like that sort of thing. But again, it's derivative of creating a board culture or a Bible study culture or a corporate culture where it's okay to say, "What is this? Or why are we doing this? I don't like that. Somebody explain this to me. Who is that person?" So that we can all get better, sort of level up together in a space that's safe. I know that's some keywords, some like buzzwords there, but it's all 100% true.
Yeah. What you and I have in common with our life group, our small group, is having pastors in that small group.
Yeah.
And so I know exactly what you're talking about with them just showing up, wanting to be a dude and be fed.
Right.
Like, it's not all riding on them. I go out of my way to make sure that doesn't happen in ours. Like, but in my instance, this guy automatically does it no matter what. And it's like, you're good. Like, just
be a bro. Just say, "I'll pray for you." Just when it's your turn, just add it into the list. It's okay, man. You don't have to solve. You don't have to solve.
Show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
That's probably tough I've never actually thought about it from that particular perspective, but it's tough for them because that's all day. Especially folks who are in pastoral care. Like, everybody just brings them their problems all day long. It's like, "Oh, okay, well, let me explain that to you. Let me help you with this. And here's a solution." And all of a sudden we're just trying to bro. Like, it's fine. Just say, "I heard you." That's okay. I don't need, anyway. Yeah. So that's a lot of good talk on Steve. You want to hear a funny takeaway for me from the recording with Damien?
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was on the air or off the air. We were talking about Dallas mirrors and Fort Worth mirrors. Was that off the air? Were you even in that conversation?
I was in it. I think I brought it up.
Was it off the air? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
In any event, the conversation that we were having, if it was recorded, I can't remember, was about how trucks have two different styles of mirrors, Dallas mirrors and Fort Worth mirrors. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. he proceeded to explain it to me. The Fort Worth mirrors are those ones that have like the extra set of hinges, or maybe you told me actually, but anyway, extra set of hinges that extends the mirrors out like 8 to 12 additional inches so that you can see the trailer behind you. And Dallas mirrors are the ones that are connected directly to the truck. I mean, you probably draw a line between like an F-150 and an F-250. Like that's all of a sudden you got a Dallas truck and a Fort Worth truck, and never thought about it before that moment. Get out in the parking lot. I'm driving by him, and I roll down the window. I was like, those are Fort Worth mirrors. These are Dallas mirrors. And for the next 2 weeks, all I see Dallas mirrors and Fort Worth mirrors.
Yeah.
Punctuated by me driving over to Fort Worth yesterday for a breakfast with a friend. And as you get through the mid cities, the mirrors all change. Like it's not fake. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Never knew it before. Not that that's the big takeaway from the conversation with Damien, but holy crap, it blew my mind.
It was a car dealer that showed me it. He had 2 trucks out there that were very equivalent. They both had similar body styles, lifts, all that sort of thing. And he's just, and that's what he showed me. He's like, I could tell which one's a Fort Worth truck and which one's a Dallas. And he explained that, and you can't unsee it after you see it.
No, can't unsee it. Yeah. You listen back too, I think, but as we listen back to the episode, one of my big takeaways from all of it was he is like the nicest guy, like the most genuine, super nicest guy. And I've laughed over and over again, period on that new idea. I've laughed over and over again about his watch not working, and can't wait. Like I can't wait to see him again in real life. I'm like, hey, do you got the time? Because that's the perfect icebreaker for him.
Oh yeah, for sure. He, I knew, just because I've got to hang out with him a bunch. I knew about how nice he was, and he's such an easy guy to talk to, and we crack up every single time. And wore my dog polo for him. I don't know if that made the error. Probably should make the error based on why I wore my dog polo to his, which got a lot of laughs when we were comparing our doodles. But what I learned was he's a monster. Yeah. Like, because I've never worked with him. Like, we've never built a building together, so I've never seen him in action. Man, heard from others too that like he's got the character traits of a monster. Like he's going to get after it. He's going to work hard. He's going to outwork you. He's going to, if he's leading you, he's going to put your feet to the fire and see what you got. Like I love it, and so made me like him even more after recording.
And traits of a monster, but like with I'm going to say this inartfully, but with the exterior of a homie, right? Like of a friend. It's just like he's not a monster in the sense that like screaming and raging and tearing things up. It is the package of those two character traits come together in like the most symbiotic way, where it's a monster and you're just in the kindest possible way, that we're all going the same place in the same direction, and you better believe we're going to do it together. Come on, let's get it.
Yeah, my definition of monster is definitely a term of endearment.
Yeah.
100%.
No, I believe that. It was fun to, as it always is, fun to see comments posted, hear feedback, excitement when we post that these are the guys that are coming on. About can't wait to hear those stories, all that stuff. It's the same stuff over and over again as we have guests on that are superstars in our space, man. So good times
for sure.
What'd you do last week? Well, spring break talk, right? If you live in Texas, it's the weeks of spring break, either last week or week before that is off, right? I don't know if that's a universal thing or a Texas thing, but
yeah, it's
time
kind
off
of, in there. For me, it's a weaker version of the week between Christmas and New Year. So it's a get after it week, a to-do list week, get a lot done. My parents flew in from Chicago to watch Quinn while Sadie and I worked, and then also look at houses because they're potentially retiring here. So my dad officially filed his retirement papers. So that's super, super cool. So they're looking out here, and they're the best grandparents. So Quinn's super spoiled. She got to do all the things Monday through Wednesday. And then Friday through Sunday, Sadie and Quinn went to Hot Springs while I got stuff done around the house. So it's one of those that usually, I don't know, it's just part of my shtick that like when everybody's traveling, I don't want to travel. I'd rather rip her from school on a week that nobody's pulling from school. So we did New Mexico like a month ago. Yeah. And that was our quote unquote spring break. But I think you did the Mickey Mouse years, didn't you?
Oh, we did a lot of stuff. I was going to say before we go though, like everyone was traveling. I talked to a mutual friend of ours today who was supposed to be traveling to the other Mickey ears, headed to Florida, and flight delayed, flight delayed, flight delayed, flight delayed, flight delayed, flight canceled. There are no more flights because everyone is traveling, and so the trip gets completely derailed. Thank you, American Airlines, due to just the bananas of the travel. But thankfully, we didn't have any. We kind of did have a little trouble. We went to the other way. We went west. So I've probably said it before, but it was Ashley's idea a few years ago. I think maybe 4 years ago, where we stopped really giving the kids gifts for Christmas in earnest. I mean, they get stuff, but not like boom, big time Christmas. It's more of we give them the gift of an experience, right? And so the first year we did it, we went to San Francisco and they unpacked all of the things, and there was a scavenger hunt to get them to their boarding passes and a packing list, and it was the like super exciting moment of like, pack your stuff, we're leaving in 2 hours. And so that sort of kicked off this thing that we do. And then with William being in high school and junior high basketball too, the just bouncing at Christmas does not work because basketball plays through. So we've had to pivot that strategy to be where it's the gift of the adventure, but we don't get to capitalize on it usually until spring break. So this year was LA was the gift of adventure, actually derivative of an essay Stella wrote for school. She had to write a persuasive paper one day for school, and she wrote it on why we should take the family to LA. I'm like, all right, pretty good actually. So we did it. It was awesome. I mean, it was spring break and it was crazy and all this. I had been to LA a couple times before, but never like experienced like this, so we went and just kind of yada through a few things, but we went to a Clippers game, which was super cool. We did some college visits with William because he's 16 and he's figuring it out. So we spent like actually a really cool day at UCLA. I don't know if he'll go to UCLA or not, but when we're in towns that have colleges, we go visit them. Couple days at Disney, couple days at the beach, travel there, travel back. We had a fun travel moment for the first time ever in my life. We left when we left the Metroplex, we flew out of Love. All right, so we drive down to Love, park the truck, fly out. But whenever our travel was originally made, like the flights got mixed up, and so they all got rebooked and stuff. And Ashley and I specifically remember saying like, we got to make sure we don't get these mixed up where we fly back into DFW. We're headed home on Sunday. Flight touches down, and Ashley says, "Wouldn't it be hilarious if we had flown to the wrong airport?" And I looked at my phone and I was like, we are at the wrong airport. We flew back to DFW. And so
that's all.
We're just
on Southwest.
No, we flew Delta. We had we cashed in points to make it work. And so anyway, in any event, so she looked at me and she's like, "Did we tell the kids?" Because they were like just ready to be home. We've been gone for 8 days. And she's like, "Do we tell the kids?" I was like, "Let's just wait for a minute." And so we walk through the concourse and get out to baggage claim. And William is starting to figure it out. Like, this is not where we left. And then Hayes goes, "This isn't where we parked. So how long is it going to take us to get to where we parked?" And I was like, "About 40 minutes because we're at the wrong airport." And you could just see like the end of the trip, them overcome with like, "Oh my gosh." So we had to take a taxi from DFW to Love, get a car, then drive back home. And it was, again, sort of a silly way to end the whole thing. But I was proud of the kids because multiple times throughout the week of all of it, they would use a moniker that Ashley and I use whenever things were going totally crappy. And we'll say, "Dude, we're just making memories." And the kids said multiple times during the week as we were standing in line for an hour to ride something or stuck in LA traffic, we're just making memories. And it was a cool moment where it's like, "Nah, I think we are. I mean, that's a joke and we're being silly about it, but I think we are." So we had a great time. There was, I know we did a Disney, kind of frankly, like a Disney episode once when you guys went. I think y'all went to World, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And so Disneyland, for those of y'all haven't been, is more like, it's not like Six Flags, but it's more in the size of Six Flags. It's not enormous like Disney World is. It's a little tighter configuration. And so I didn't really know what to expect, but I'm not like a Mickey Mouse super fan. Not one of those people that loves Disney World, but there's something about being there that is, I even hate to say magical, but it's special, right? It's like, and so William and I were walking up Main Street the first day we got there, and we're having this conversation. I ended up in a really interesting conversation with William about what makes this place different than other places. And so the whole rest of the 2 days we were there, we started pointing out the things that made it all different, right? Like, why is this place different than Crypto Arena? Why is this place different than UCLA? Why is this place different than... And we had some really interesting observations. You want to take a shot at like what makes that place different? Because I think there's some draw-throughs to like corporate culture here. That's the whole reason I'm kind of long telling into this story, is to lean on this point.
Well, you get to see the best and worst of society simultaneously.
That's true.
Because the staff deals with horrific human beings.
Yes.
You just watch them do it with a smile.
They do.
Customer service is pretty top notch.
That's one of the things. Like, everyone who worked there loved being there. Like, and maybe it's a facade, and maybe they've gotten beaten into loving that. I don't know, but every place you went, helpful, accommodating, smile. Like, it was, nobody's mad about running a ride or sweeping up the walkway or whatever. Like, everyone there is genuinely happy to be there. There's a certain a part of it about, to me, I'm kind of a neat freak anyway, but everything is clean. And so it's the experience of everything is in place. And I think that sort of transcends, Disney bobblehead Mickeys and all this stuff. Like, when everything is in place, it just, and everything is in order, it just creates this different level of like comfort and operational efficiency and all of those things, right? And so the thing that William and I talked about a lot was we all felt more at ease because things weren't falling off the shelves, and there wasn't wrappers in the corner of stuff, and there, all the costumes or uniforms weren't disheveled. Something about things being in order brought peace to the experience, right? So there's a component part of that to like, how is the disorder of the things that you're doing creating like this underpinning of chaos among your people? Is that at home, or is that at work? Is it in your whatever? How is that affecting everything? Agree, disagree. I'm happy for you to be a dissenter, but that was one of the common things that William and I kept talking about, was how everything being in order brought peace to the situation.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I mean, when things are messy, it's a symptom of something greater.
Yeah.
It could be a character flaw. It could be lack of process. It could be lack of quality. It could be lack of standing for something bigger than yourselves. It's a symptom, like a cold.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's the disorderly feeling for me, at least, is that I know it's a symptom, and then I don't know what it is of sometimes, which creates that like, I know this isn't right, but anyway.
You should have popped in up the street to Arlington to Six Flags immediately after and see what top shelf is and industry best and industry standard versus good enough.
Correct. Right. We had that conversation because one of the things the boys and I do right before school starts is go just crush Six Flags. So we talked about it, differing things. Again, it's to stick on the cleanliness thing. Like, even the garbage cans, there was a guy cleaning the garbage cans. The garbage cans were being cleaned.
Yeah.
And so I had, like, when it was time for me to throw trash away, I was not reluctant to do it on the basis like, oh, that was going to be gross. I was like, oh yeah, everyone's throwing this away. This is a nice place. I'm going to follow suit and happily throw my garbage away. Right. Not the, you go throw it away feeling that you have a Six Flags, right?
Yeah. And that's not even a shot at the people, because it's way bigger than that.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
There's without going down a massive rabbit trail. We're not talking about the person running the ride. It could be the exact same person.
Absolutely.
Switch out leadership and culture and pay and benefits and care, leadership, and that same person might turn that frown upside down.
That's a zillion % right. It reminds me of some of those like SEAL duck boat stories where they're like, this team was always behind, always failing. Same people, they just swap out the leader and they start winning. Mm-hmm. It is not about the people who's, sometimes it is, right? You got a butts and seats issue from time to time, but it's not, the butts and seats is not necessarily a problem. It's at the top most of the time. We can change all that stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, you have office culture, shop field culture. The construction parallel of that is the field being the end user of what the office and shop gives them. And like, it's the cultivation of the scheduling, the proactive procurement, like all of those things that if it's not tied in a bow, in a package for the field can be under the microscope and they're just handed crap, you know?
Right.
And they're getting blamed for everything, and everything's late and behind, and they're taking forever. But how many questions, how many holes in the process have they had? How many holes in material? Like, so the field kind of is the poster child, but like, what did they inherit?
Right.
You know, and that's what causes so much disconnect in our industry.
Yeah. I mean, to try to, I don't know if I can do it on my try, but to bring it full Disney there is like, you have created chaos, you have created disorder, and then you're getting sort of chaos out of it. There's a way to fix it. Stop delivering people junk and hoping that they can perform well with it. So anyway, that was a really cool experience for us. We had that conversation just all over the place about rides and excellence and the people and all of this stuff. We had a really funny two other stories. I know you don't care about them, but I'm going to try to make a point with them. Is there was a guy there who was in front of us in line for It's a Small World, which is not a great ride, but it's one of the original Disneyland rides. They opened in like 1955 or whatever. A guy in front of us, and as we were walking down the queue, he's like saying hello to everybody. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And gets in hilariously when we get in the boats. He's in one of the boats in front of us, and I didn't realize he had a baked potato. And so he was eating his baked potato while he was on It's a Small World, which is it's just so funny to us. But as the ride ends, we realize he works there. And he's saying hello to all the people, right? Everybody's, hey, you're here. It's his day off. He came back to Disney, homies with everybody. And I was like, it's interesting, right? Like, I guess Disney people love Disney, whatever. And then fast forward about 3 hours, and we zip into the restroom to go use the restroom. He was the janitor. Homeboy was cleaning the bathroom. And there was this idea, and you say it a lot, and I'm not suggesting one of the people you have to make some jumps with me to make the analogy work, but like that guy, he was a janitor. Knew everybody, friendly, loved everybody. Everybody knew him. Like it was not, when he was riding the ride, they were just like sticking their nose up at him. Like, dude, you're not a ride operator. You're not a character, right? Like, he was known by everybody. And there's a piece of component part of that. Like, who are you like walking by, thumbing your nose up at, and creating a situation where it's not harmonious. It's not, you're not having the dude on this is a stupid, but you're not having a dude on It's a Small World eating a baked potato moment like we did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Every role is valuable despite what it is.
Yes.
You have no idea what that person brings to the table beyond the widget. No idea. Unless you do. You get me?
Yes, I do. And to come full circle on that, like Homeboy, who was baked potato on It's a Small World, was contributing to the point I was making earlier, which is tidy, orderly, experientially excellent, all of it, right? So his role in the whole process was part of what was making it awesome for me, you know?
Yeah.
So super cool.
I'll parallel that because our shop is up and running now. So we have several people in the shop, pre-glazing stuff. And our concern that these walls are paper thin. So the guys front and back to me can hear every single word of this podcast, every single word. And we were concerned once the saw and CNC, because they're high RPM, and when you're cutting metal, it just screeches. We were concerned that it would sound like it was in our office. And the loudest thing in the shop by a landslide is the music. Dude, this one of the guys in the shop is also the music guy. And the music guy bumps reggaeton, 80s rock, new age, like Taylor Swift style stuff, gangster rap, you name it. It's such a collage. And like, he makes everyone happier. Like, everybody in the office is kind of toe tapping a little bit. Nobody's annoyed by it.
Yeah.
It's the number one sound. How much more important is that piece to the puzzle beyond the fabrication that he's doing? Like, what kind of love and life and juice does he bring to the table beyond that? Unmeasurable amount.
Right. Yeah. And what
Can't
could
measure
have,
it.
yeah, what on kudos to you for having a weird culture too, but in any other scenario, but for you guys appreciating what he's doing and all of it kind of coming together, somebody's mad about that, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe that we're having to hear the music from, right? But you guys have all you have generated a like-minded group of people that is like, That's unique. It's a little weird. We're all bumping with it and love it. You know?
And I'm pretty certain every single person from the office has busted the shop door open and did their version of a dance. I know I have. I did a whole little chicken wig move next to the unitized line.
So like you can hear something tinkering out there that you're like, that's my jam. I'll be right back.
That's right.
Oh God, that's awesome.
Dude, it's so loud. It's so loud.
You're not going to do it. You should put a live stream camera out like right outside the door and then tape off like a dance area.
Yeah.
So that when your jam comes on, like everybody can see, oh, that's Kevin out there. He's R. Kelly's on and he's doing some pump and grind in the dance square.
Oh, I should try to capture some moments, but I will quote Brad Brown and say, let's not do OSHA's job for them.
Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
From a safety standpoint, we're safe, but we're also weird humans that make errors.
Dancing around, yeah.
Yeah, they can argue a moonwalk is not safe in the shop.
Probably not, actually.
Yeah.
Anywho, spring. I could go on and on. We had with William being 16, he would, I don't walk super fast. I think I'm just kind of a mosier a little bit, honestly, but he would like linger back with me and we had just chatting about stuff. It was great. And I could go on and on. I got stories and stories and stories, but there's no reason to wear everybody out with all my spring break stories. So I'll leave it at some things we learned at Disney.
Yeah, those are good ones, man. I'm glad you got out there. Good memories. Like the landing at a different airport. It's one of those very, very short-term frustrations that have long-term impact on stories around fires 10 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are moved out and it'll be remember whens. So in the long run, you're happy it happened.
You know, another funny thing the shirtlifts do, which is totally dumb, is in the middle of those stupid things that are happening, we actually do this bit where we say, remember when? And then we tell the story right then. So like we're walking through the concourse or whatever, and I'm making this up to illustrate my point, and somebody will say, remember that time we flew into the wrong airport and we had to catch a taxi to go to the other airport? But it's happening right now. Like we're doing it, and it persists onward from there. We sort of set the remember when stage.
It's disarming.
Yeah. It's either that or be mad, which is not going to help any at all.
Not at all.
Move on. Anywho, all right. So I have spring break story just kind of into an oblivion. You got we had a bunch of topics, but we've been going for a minute here. You want to know? You want to just keep telling spring break stories? I got 6 more. You want to know? Okay.
No, man. We got a lineup of stuff and we'll push it forward.
Yeah. Just roll it forward. All right, cool. Anything else interesting or fun going on in your world, or this is how we go? Yeah,
this is how we go. A million things, but
yeah,
partly why this is why we go.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll roll all the other stuff. We'll pin all this and roll all the other stuff forward, and we'll catch you guys next week. So until then, y'all stay out there and keep moving mountains.